Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story in which our OP, who's been grinding away in retail since 2009, finally reaches their breaking point. After years of being pushed around by a boss who talks a big game about valuing personal time, but constantly cancels days off for his own convenience. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. My entitled boss laid me off for refusing to come in on my weekend off. I've been in retail since 2009, and my now last job, I was there since 2014. I won't go into huge details about the work environment. A lot of that can be seen on my profile of other job posts. But to summarize, in the whole time I was there, my boss, despite always saying family time's important, he would always screw over my personal time off. When I worked directly under him, a lot of times he would cancel my days off because he was taking a trip somewhere. Couple with that, and childish and immature coworkers who threw tantrums and gave silent treatments, I was at the end of my rope. My job mostly consisted of delivering building material. I had a certain certificate to operate a certain type of delivery truck. The certification was going to expire at the end of the year. About a week or so into January, HR came to do a review with me. During the review, they mentioned they're holding a course to revalidate the certification for everyone in the company in 2 weeks. They said, "It's on your weekend off, but are you able to attend?" I looked at my calendar and said I had plans booked that day, so it doesn't work to my schedule. My company wanted to get everyone done at once, that way they save money on group training. HR just said, "See what you can do to attend," and I said that the plans were set in stone and things were left at that. About a week before the course, HR emailed again, saying this course is critical for my job, so to try and attend. I replied it doesn't work for my schedule, that I'd be happy to do it any other day, but this is going on during my weekend off, where I made plans well in advance, so it doesn't work for my schedule. For a few days, there was nothing else. My boss owns a few stores, and one worker from another store came by who was also going to the course. They told me he had been making plans with his fiancée for the last several months for that weekend, but had to cancel them because they suddenly revealed this training course and had to attend. He wasn't too happy. Plans he made for months had to be canceled. I said nothing to him, figured it was his choice if he chose to do that. Then suddenly, my boss began phoning me 2 days before the course. I recorded the conversation. Maybe in the future I'll upload it, but for now I'll just transcribe what was said. AB will stand for A-hole boss. And just for some context, earlier that week I got a work truck stuck in the snow and called a tow truck to pull me out and paid for it myself. It'll be important for what happens next. And this is roughly how it went. AB: "Hey OP, HR tells me you're unable to attend the training course." OP: "That's correct. I unfortunately made plans in advance, so I can't attend." AB, after a moment of silence: "I need you to get this training done." OP: "I understand that, but I made plans well in advance that I can't just cancel." AB: "Okay, you realize that when we notify you 2 weeks in advance, it doesn't mean it's optional. This is mandatory." At this point, I was starting to get mad. OP: "I understand that, but I've been planning this weekend since early December. I'll be out a lot of money if I cancel." AB: "What are you doing?" OP: "That's a private matter. I can't discuss that." AB, after a moment of silence: "OP, how much is that towing bill costing me?" OP: "I paid for that myself because that was my screw-up." AB, silent again for a few seconds: "Okay, then you're going to have to do this training on your own time and your own money then." The training itself cost only a few $100s, but by this point, I'd had it with my boss. OP: "Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there." AB, silent again: "This is pretty rich coming from you." OP: "Well, I'm sorry, but I received no heads up, no communication. This was being planned for that date. I know there were plans to do the training early December, but never heard anything about it since either September or October." AB, silence again: "OP, I'm not happy right now." OP: "Well, I'm sorry, but I have a life and I can't just cancel things when I make plans on my day off." AB, silence again: "Okay, good enough, bye." OP: "Bye." So for a week I heard nothing, continued my job as normal while looking for a new job because I had it with my boss. 9 years of all this, I'd reached my breaking point during that phone call. This boss has always screwed me over for my personal time off, and this was the last straw of trying to force me to come in on my scheduled weekend off. And then 1 week later, towards the end of the day, HR showed up. They informed me they were laying me off due to extremely slow season, with hopes of having me come back in spring. I said nothing, choosing to leave on a high note, but I knew it was really their way of firing me without firing me. That way they avoid paying severance, which would have been in the tens of thousands of dollars. I estimated between $10,000 and $40,000. I already looked into it. Unfortunately, I have no real way of proving this is retaliation. All their paperwork, though I know a lie, said I was laid off for lack of work, etc. The only proof I have is recently I had to contact the insurance provider for my company to get a letter of experience from them. The agent I spoke with said he recognized my name, saying my now former employer recently removed me from their insurance coverage. Other than this being a backhanded move, I'm glad to be out of there. I was unhappy, stressed, and fed up. I'm using the time to advance my driver's license to have the highest one I can get in my country. If anyone's curious to know what stories in my profile pertain to this company or this boss, feel free to look or message me and I'll tell you which ones they are. You need to stop apologizing so much in conversations with bosses. They view it as a sign of weakness and step all over you for it. And our second story. My ex-sister-in-law from hell and her ill-mannered kids. Just a few days before Christmas, my husband's older brother's ex-wife called to say they're in town from Texas and wanted her kids to see their cousins, my kids. We'd been extremely busy and had many plans between my husband's aggressive chemotherapy treatments and life in general, but I told them that we have 2 hours in between our busy schedules. They came over and we welcomed them and were gracious hosts. The oldest son, Billy, asked about our Christmas lights. I told him that these are Govee lights and how it comes equipped with preset lights for every occasion or holiday, and I've been making my own patterns on it. He asked me to show it to him, which I did, but then he asked if he can make some too. I told him no, because last time you had my phone, you downloaded a few games and a couple of them had viruses, which my cell phone carrier had put a stop to. My husband and I have some properties and our property management company. I got a call and walked away to answer it. As I come back to where everyone was seated, Billy grabs the phone out of my hand and I asked him to give it back, but he held the phone away from me. I'm 5'7" tall and just under 130 pounds versus his 6 foot and over 260 pounds. My husband walked over and grabbed it just as rudely and told him never grab things out of people's hands. Well, the mother Barb didn't like that. She has said this many times that we don't like to say no to our kids because there are too many no's in the world. Meanwhile, Billy is throwing a temper tantrum while Nick and the second-born couldn't keep his hands off the candy jar. I got this candy jar that's like a tree with 5 glass jars. I fill it up with colorful candies. I had sealed it so we don't have a temptation to have some. There was some leftovers that I gave them. They grabbed handfuls and stuffed their pockets with it, so I don't know why he wanted more. Anyway, the candy jars come crashing down and there's glass everywhere. My husband cleaned it all up and I very calmly told Barb that she owes me $300. She was shocked that I asked because old me would have just gotten over it, but prior to all this, I'd gone out and bought Nike brand t-shirts for the older 2 ones and toys for the younger ones. They opened up the gifts and Nick and Billy both said, "Is this all we're getting?" So after the candy crash, I went off on them, beginning with, "What did you get for my kids? A couple of small card games? Did we say anything about it? My kids thanked you and went about to play." They left in a huff because I reminded them that we have prior commitments, hopefully never to see them again. Barb left my husband's brother after she lost 80 pounds. My brother-in-law is now deceased. So done with selfish people. Ugh, I would never have them as guests in your home ever again. And seriously, that's her parenting method? To never say the word no to her kids? And our last story. Neighbor claims I need to move my water pipe from underneath his property, has threatened to sue me and disconnect my water line. Several months ago, I bought and moved into a home that was recently rebuilt. The owner/contractor/neighbor next door bought his home last year, raised and refinished it, and currently has it up for sale. There's about 12 feet of yard between us. In the process of reconnecting the water line to his home, he dug and discovered my water pipe on his property. Our water mains are next to each other on a shared easement at the front of the properties. He contends that it's my obligation to have the water pipe removed from underneath his property and to lay it or reinstall it on my own property. He states that a potential buyer for his home is demanding the removal of the pipe and that this issue will prevent the sale of the home. He's threatened to sue me and to disconnect my water line if I don't move the pipe. I've spoken with the township, who basically conclude that it's a legal issue, which I assume to mean they do not want to arbitrate the dispute. My request for documentation of any work or permits related to the water line yielded one notice stating that the town had capped the sewer and water lines back in 2016, allowing the previous structure to be demolished. This seems to support the home builder, who stated they didn't install any new water lines during construction, and the town, upon inspection, determined that the copper pipes did not need to be replaced, as would have been the case had the pipes been steel. The previous owner stated she didn't move or install any water pipes during the time she owned the home since 2006. Update. After months of dealing with the water pipe dispute, the situation has finally reached a resolution. Initially, my neighbor was adamant that I remove my water pipe from beneath his property, threatening to sue and even disconnect the line if I didn't comply. I consulted with my real estate attorney and gathered all the relevant documentation, including a notice from the township about the water line capping back in 2016. This documentation supported the fact that the water lines hadn't been moved during recent construction and had been in place long before either of us purchased our homes. Despite the neighbor's threats, I continued to communicate my findings and made it clear that any unauthorized disconnection of the water line would result in legal action. After much back and forth, the neighbor agreed to third-party mediation. During the mediation, it was determined that the water line would remain as it was, and we established a written easement that allowed the pipe to stay beneath his property. In the end, the neighbor's house sold without further complications, and the new buyers were informed of the easement. The issue was resolved without the need for a lawsuit, allowing me to finally enjoy my home. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.